So welcome everybody to this latest video on 162 Maths. In this video we'll be going over the AQA GCSE Maths 2022 Foundation Paper 1 Advanced Notice, looking at the statistics and probability section. Now there will be a copy of the questions that I go through in this video for you to have an attempt at or to have a go at while watching this video by clicking on the link in the description. So before we get started, let's just have a quick look at the breakdown of the advanced notice given on the stats and probability section of Foundation Paper 1. So looking at two-way tables, again, what's really important is you've got to remember that a lot of these topics will be combined with other topics, not only in the same section, but also in other sections as well. So with the first mention of two-way tables, so for this you need to be able to read information from a two-way table and complete a two-way table, usually in the form of using fractions, decimals, percentages and ratios. When it comes to averages problems, so this is not actually physically calculating the mean, the median, the mode, or working with the range. So I would say a question that's going to be related to this on this paper is going to be related to either comparing averages, working backwards, so where you're given the mode, the mean or the median, and you need to find out what one of the pieces of the data are, and also maybe potentially looking at the pros and cons of each average. So it's really important you know when is the right time to use the rate, to use the mean, when to use the median, and when to use the mode. When it comes to outliers, again, there's no sort of in the syllabus, there's no need of actually calculating the outlier. That's more GCSE statistics. So here it's going to be more of a case of recognizing an outlier from a table of information or a scatter diagram, and the ways in which that should be. So why you need, let me just get rid of that S. So why you need to remove outliers, because obviously it affects the averages and also the impact of outliers, so it can massively skew your average results. Moving on to probability, so general problems is really vague. I would say that this is generally going to be a typical probability question of, let's say, counts in a bag or nothing untowards. That if you practice this topic by doing some past questions, I think the problem side will be fine. I don't think it's going to include tree diagrams, because in previous advanced information they give you tree diagrams. So this is purely going to be a case of just a generic probability question. Now with the mention of Venn diagrams, so this is going to involve constructing Venn diagram. So again, could be cross topics in terms of using fractions, decimals, percentages and ratios. I would say look at the properties of a Venn diagram and how it's constructed, so making sure you've got the box around your Venn diagrams, the circles, what each of the parts mean, and also being able to read information from a Venn diagram when it's completed to find probabilities, and also to recognize the notation. That's using the and or bits and recognizing which sections refer to which. So now let's get started on some revision example questions. So again, a reminder that if you want to have a go at these questions before watching this video, then you can do so by clicking on the link in the description. So looking at question 1, which involves a two-way table. So it says the table shows the number of desktop computers and laptops in 50 households. How many households have 2 laptops? So for this question, all we need to do is add up the numbers in the 2 laptop row. So I'm going to do 1 plus 8 plus 5 plus 0, which gives me an answer of 14. Then for the next question, it says how many households have more laptops than desktop computers? So for this, all I need to do is highlight which ones have more laptops, so where the laptop number is going to be more. So it's going to be adding up those 6 numbers that I've highlighted. So it's going to be 5 plus 1 plus 8 plus 3 plus 2 plus 1, which gives me an answer of 20. Moving on to question 2, so it says Eva owns a restaurant. The table shows the information, or shows the number of customers on 4 days, and the question says how many more customers in total were there on Friday than Thursday. So here we're looking for the total number of customers. Now one thing that is here now, in terms of the total customers, all I'm going to be doing is comparing Thursday's total to Friday's total. So here I'm going to do 120 minus 97, which gives me an answer of 23. Then for B, it says she keeps a tally of the number of customers who order pudding each day. Complete the table. So all I need to do here is just complete the tally table. So it's going to be 15 and it's going to be 24. Then for part C, it says what fraction of Friday's customers ordered a pudding? Give your answer in its simplest form. So first of all, I need to work out the total number of customers on Friday, which is 120. And then the number of customers on Friday who ordered a pudding, which is going to be 30. And then I then need to simplify 30 over 120, which is 3 over 12, which is 1/4. Moving on to D, it says here is some information about Saturday. So the number of customers is 150. The number who ordered pudding was 50. Eva thinks the fraction of customers who ordered pudding on Saturday is greater than Friday. Is she correct? So here, all I need to do is compare the fractions. So I've got 50 over 150. And then if I simplify that, that's going to be 1/3. So going back to the question, Eva thinks the fraction of customers who ordered pudding on Saturday is greater than it was on Friday. So on Friday it was 1/4 and on Saturday it was 1/3. So she is correct. So moving on to question 3, it says the table show 2 sets of data, and we've got set A and we've got set B. And the question asks, Liam says that set A has a higher mode. Is he correct? And he must show you working out. So for this, if we highlight the mode in set A, so we're looking for which result has the higher frequency. So that's going to be 6. So let's write that down. So set A mode equals 6. And in set B, the one with the higher frequency is result 4. So set B mode is 4. So is Liam correct by saying set A as a higher mode? So yes, he is correct. It then says that Liam says set A has a larger range. Is he correct? Well, the range for set A is going to be, and it's going to be 7 take away 2, which is 5. And the range for B is 6 take away 3, which is 3. So say it as a lot, and yes, he is correct. Again, clever boy. Right, moving on to question 4. It says that here is a list of numbers, and it says write down 3 numbers from the list that has a median of 7. So again, with these particular questions, there can be several examples you could have. So as long as 7 is in the middle and this number is lower than 7, and this number here is bigger than 7, then it's going to be correct. So if I just go for any numbers, so for the first one, I'm going for any of these 3 numbers. So I could just go for 3. And for this number here, I'm going to go for, so for this number here, I'm going to go for any of those 2 numbers. So I could have 12. So again, other options you could have are basically going to be 0, 7, 12, 0, 7, 29, 3, 7, 12, 3, 7, 29, 5, 7, 12, and 5, 7, 29. For question B, it says write down 3 numbers from the list with a range of 7. So here, what you're looking for is the difference between these 2 numbers here have got to be 7, with the middle number being in between the 2 left and the right numbers. So here, what I could have is I could have 3, 0, 3, and 7. Other examples you could have for the correct answer are going to be 0, 5, and 7, and 5, 7, and 12. Part C, it says find 3 numbers from the list with a mean that is a whole number. So again, what you're looking for is a multiple. So the sum needs to equal a multiple of 3. So an example of here could be 0, 3, 12, because if I add those numbers up together, I'm going to get 15, and 15 is divisible by 3. Other examples you could have are 0, 5, 7, 0, 7, 29, 3, 5, 7, 3, 7, 25, 5, 7, 12, and 7, 12, 29. Then for D, it says find 3 numbers from the list with the range double the median. Write down the values of the range and the median. So again, a possible answer you could have are 5, 12, and 29. And here the range of numbers is 24, and the median is going to be 12. And as you can see, double of 12 is 24. Moving on to question 5, it says the Venn diagram shows information about 50 people who are in bands. It says how many people are guitar players. So I'm looking at the total of the guitar circle. So I'm adding all the numbers up in that green circle, which gives me an answer of 29. It then says how many of the people are singers but not guitar players. So singers but not guitar, that's just going to be 4. Then for C, it says one of the people are chosen at random. Write down the probability that person is not a singer and not a guitar player. Well, it's going to be how many are left outside those 2 circles. So it's going to be 17 out of the total number of people, which is 50. Then moving on to question 6, it says here is some information about 80 people who are in bands. 12 are singers but not guitar players. 30% are neither a singer nor a guitar player. A quarter of the guitar players are also singers. Complete the Venn diagram to represent the information. So for this, looking at the first bit of data, it says 12 are singers but not guitar players. So this here is going to be our 12. Moving on to our next bit of information, it says that 30% are neither a singer or a guitar player. So I need to work out what 30% of 80 is going to be. Well, 10% is 8, so that means 30% going to equal 24, so that's going to go outside. And then it says a quarter of the guitar players are also singers. So in terms of what is left, so here I've got 80 minus 12 minus 24 is going to be 80 minus 36, which is going to give me 44. So I want a quarter of that, so that's going to equal 11. A quarter of 44 equals 11. So 11 is going to go in this here. And then if all the numbers add up to 80, all I've got to do is just do 80, take away 12, take away 11, take away 24, which gives me an answer of 33. Then moving on to question 7, it says which of these represents the shaded region? Well, that's going to represent A and B, which is our third option. Then moving on to question 8, it says that there are 135 passengers on a plane. 3 of the passengers are in business class or flying for the first time. In total, there are 15 passengers in business class. A quarter of the passengers not in business class are flying for the first time. And the question is asking us for part A is to complete the Venn diagram. So if I just fit all that information in, so just fit it in there. Let's go about filling this in. So here, what we've got is it says that 3 of the passengers in business class are flying for the first time. So that means that 3 is going to go in the middle. It then says that in total there are 15 passengers in business class. So the circle of business B needs to add up to 15, which means that this circle here, this part of the circle, needs to add up to 12. It then says a quarter of the passengers not in business class. So here we know that 15, so 135 minus 15 equals 120. So I know that a quarter of 120, which is going to be 30, are flying for the first time. So that means that this section here needs to be 30. Then for the value that's outside, well, all we need to do is do 135, which is our grand total, take away 12, take away 3, take away 30, and that gives me an answer of 90. Part B then says that one of the passengers is chosen at random. Write down the probability that the passenger is in business class. So the people flying in business class is going to be 15. So it's going to be 15 over 135. And if I simplify that fraction, I get 1 over 9. Then moving on to question 9, it says which of these represents the shaded region? So I'm looking for A and not B. So A and not B is, or A or not B I should say, which is this section here. Then moving on to question 10, it says in a group of 20 people, 7 people own a dog, 3 own a cat, 12 do not own a cat or a dog. And it says, Adrian shows information in Venn diagram. Make 2 criticisms of the Venn diagram. Well, one criticism is that there's no number in the middle. Another criticism, and I'm just going to just label these. I'm not going to actually fill it in the correct places because you could have any of these. They don't all the numbers don't add up to 22. And this should do. And we've got 12 outside the box. So again, any of those two, I would say those 3 statements are probably the most common, but something along those lines would be absolutely fine. Moving on to question 11, it says that A and B are 2 events. Some probabilities are shown in the Venn diagram, and it says work out the probability of not A or B. Well, let's first of all work out what is going to not be outside. So for this number here, I need to do 1, take away 0.3, take away from minus 0.15, minus 0.35, and adding all of those up, I get 0.65 plus 0.15, which is 0.8. And so this is got to be 0.2. So then what I then need to do now, because it's all, if I shade in all the region that's not A, so this is the region that is not A, and then the region that is B, this is the section that I want. So it's going to be 1, take away 0.3, which so gives me an answer of 0.7. Then moving on to question 12, it says during year 10, a school runs a trip to Austria and a trip to France. 63 students go to Austria, 89 students go to France, 15 students go to both Austria and France, and 54 students do not go on either trip. How many students are there in year 10? So what we need to do here is complete this diagram. Now, whenever you're completing a Venn diagram, you always want to start with what's in the middle, and what's in the middle is going to be 15. Then if I label this, so let's label this as A and this as F for Austria and France. So then using Austria, we know that the circle of Austria needs to add up to 63. So if I do 63, take away 15, and again, remembering this is on a non-calculator paper, so that's going to be 8 and 48. So then that means that this section here is going to be 48. Then if I do the same for France, so I've got 89, take away 15, which is going to be 74. And then how many students go on neither trip, which is going to be 54. Then all I then need to do is add up the numbers in each of the 4 sections of this Venn diagram. So 48 plus 15 plus 74 plus 54, and that gives me an answer of 191. Then moving on to question 13, it says here is a Venn diagram. It shows information about the number of students who have a laptop or a TV. Set L represents the number of people who have a laptop. T represents people who've got a TV. There are 50 students altogether. A student's chosen at random. Work out the probability that the student has a laptop. So in terms of the total number in the L, that's going to be 6 plus 23, which is 29, over the grand total, which is 50. Then says work out the probability that the student has a laptop and a TV, which is the middle section. So that's going to be 23 over 50. Part C then says complete the sentence to make it true. The probability that a student and something that is 11 over 50. Well, 11 represents people who've got a TV only. So the probability that a student has a TV only is 11 over 50. Moving on to question 14, it says the table shows information about 150 students travel to school. It says what fraction of girls walk to school. So we're just looking at the girls. So that's out of 72. And how many of those 72 walk to school? Well, it's going to be 22 over 72, which simplifies to give me 11 over 36. Then says one of the boys is chosen at random. So I'm looking at one of 78. And the question says, what's the probability that it travels to school by bus? So it's going to be 41 over 78, which can't be simplified, which is why it's only worth 1 mark. And the first one is 2 because you can simplify it. The next question then says, what percentage of the 150 students travel by car? So the total number of people who travel by car is going to be 30. So it's going to be 30 over 150, And then if I simplify this or convert it as a fraction, so that's going to be 3 over 15, which is 1 over 5. And 1 over 5 as a decimal is 0.2. And what's 0.2 as a percentage? It's going to be 20%. Moving on to question 15, it says bag X and Y both each contain counters. And it says bag X has 30 counters, each counter is green, white or yellow. Bag Y has 5 counters and 3 are green and 2 are red. So it says the probability of a green counter from X is the same as a red counter from Y. Work out the number of green counters in X. So here the probability of a red counter in Y is going to be 2 out of 5. So what I'm working out is 2/5 of 30. So 30 divided by 5 is 6 times 2, which is 12. Then moving on to question B, it says all 35 counters are put in a bag. One counter is picked at random. Work out the probability that the counter is not red. Well, there's no red counters in X, so that means there's only 2 red counters. So then the number of red counters is going to be 35, take away 2, which is 33. So the answer then is going to be 33 over 35. Then moving over to question 16, it says in a raffle 200 tickets are sold. The tickets are either red or blue. The winning ticket is picked at random. What is the probability that the winning ticket is green? Well, it's going to be a 0 chance. Then says 79 children and 90 women buy 1 ticket each. Men buy the rest of the tickets. Work out the probability that the man buys the winning ticket. So from this we've got to do 200 minus 79 minus 90, which gives me an answer of 31. So there's 31 men. So then the probability then is going to be 31 over 200. Moving on to question 17, it says which of these values could represent a probability? Now probability is only a number between 0 and 1, so it's going to be 0.8. It then says a fair ordinary die is rolled once. Circle the probability that rolling a 3 or a 4. So that's going to be 2 out of 6. So there we are. It could have been a third. Moving on to question 18, it says that the 4 possible outcomes of an experiment are A, B, C, and D. And we know that probability of A is 0.28. Probability of B is 2 lots. There's 2 times the size of A. C and D are equal. So for this, let's work out first of all the probability of B, which is 2 times 0.28, which leaves me with 0.56. So C plus probability of C plus the probability of D must equal 1 minus 0.28 minus 0.56. And if I do that calculation, let's just quickly do that here. So I've got 4 and 14 rather. And I've got 8, so it's 0.84. So the probability that's left is going to be 0.16. And if I divide that by 2, I get 0.08. Then moving on to question 19, which is our last question. It says bag A contains 10 blue balls and 20 red balls. Bag B contains 8 blue balls and 12 red balls. A ball is chosen at random from each bag. Joe says it's more likely that a blue ball is chosen from bag A than bag B because there are more blue balls in bag A. Is she correct? Well, for bag A, so blue from A is going to be 10 out of 30, which is 1/3. And the probability of selecting a blue from B is going to be 8 out of 20, which can be simplified by dividing both numbers by 4. So I get 2 out of 5. So this is 0.3333 recurring, and this is going to be 0.4. So a blue ball is likely to chosen from bag A than bag B, which is incorrect. So she, or is it she? Yes, she is incorrect. And the reason for that is because 0.4 is bigger than 0.3 recurring. And that is the end of this video.